Hi, Pete.
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going all right, man. It's a pretty good day. It's a little overcast, which is nice.
Are you being sponsored by Johnny Cupcakes?
Yeah, I am.
Nice.
I did.
I want 50%.
Yeah, you can have 50%, which would just be 50% of
Zero.
zero. I just love the guy. I think he's so cool. Johnny Cupcakes. Everybody.com/the Fundamentalists for 50% off. But yeah, I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I mean, just life is at that weird slow thing still.
Yeah, we were talking before we began the podcast about the molasses feeling, very surreal feeling, despite things happening in the world and then in life. Yeah, it feels very chill.
Very chill. I found a new coffee shop just down the road from me, so I'm walking there every day, reading in the morning,
That's
walking
lovely.
back. So that gets me out of the
How
apartment.
early are you waking up right now?
Usual 6 or before.
Do you try to sleep longer ever?
No, I usually, if I wake up at 5, I'll often see if I can sleep for an extra hour. But when it gets to 6, I feel great, to be honest. My
Really?
mornings are the best time for me. I love
They're
the
so
mornings.
great.
Oh, yeah. You're doing more. You did a thing. You recorded a podcast today at 7 a.m.
I did record at 7 a.m. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking it would be a fun idea, but I also like the idea. I think it was just me forcing myself to get up and have that time where everything feels very quiet.
It's very quiet.
And nice, especially here in this hellish nightmare of a city. Welcome to the Fundamentalists, everybody. My name is Elliott Morgan. This is Peter Rollins. We're having a great run of podcasts.
Yeah.
So the bar is set high. And as such, we figured, as we talked about last week, we're going to talk this week about a little bit of success. We're going to talk about what it's like
To live the high life.
to live the high life, which I said it half as a joke when you told me that we passed 1 million downloads, which congrats again, and congrats to you guys mostly. Congrats to you. It's I was like, oh, it'd be funny if we did one that was just about how successful, but at the same time, it is an interesting subject.
No, when you suggested it, I'm like, oh, this has sparked my brain. So
yeah. I came in and you're like, I got thoughts, and I was like, okay, that's good, because who knows what my thoughts are going to be on it. But I would love to hear yours first, and then we can dive in, because my guess is that you're going to have something meatier to say than what I will, which will just be really long-winded self-deprecation.
Which is what people tune in for. That's why we got the 1 million views. We all like to see you humiliate yourself.
Yes, and I've been doing it for years. I'm just now getting good at it.
That's actually something I want to talk about as part of success. Is that we'll get to that.
Oh, great.
Not you humiliating yourself, but why people might humiliate
But
themselves.
you're such an easy example. I've done my fair share of embarrassing myself. Yes, we'll get to it in a little bit.
Well, so I wanted to talk about success and desire, because funny thing is, success isn't really that important unless someone sees it. So there are these parables that often, like, the parable of this guy who plays a perfect golf game. God gives him the perfect golf game, but the point is Seamus, exactly. So Seamus gets the perfect golf game, but the reason why God does it is because Seamus has been pretending that he helps the homeless on a Saturday, but he goes and plays golf. And so whenever the angels say, why did you give him the perfect golf game? Of course, God says, well, who's he going to tell? Yeah. In other words, it's not the perfect golf game that's good. It's you want to show it off. You want other people to see it. Mm-hmm. So Lacan has this really interesting phrase, which is basically, we desire the desire of those we desire. Well, he says we desire the other's desire. So what the most precious material in the world is not money or health or anything like that. It's the desire of the ones that we desire.
We're all little minxes.
Yes, trying to seduce the other's desire.
Hope this is what you like. Does this make you want me?
Yeah. So even whenever we think we're doing something for ourselves, like, oh, I just want to be famous, often there's someone in the audience of your fantasy watching it. You don't know there is, but the question is, who do I want to be successful for? Who am I trying to impress? What's the other? And I was going to mention, I won't do it all in one maybe, but I was going to mention 4 ways to understand this.
Ooh, I love when you have numbers and you count them off on your hand. It's my favorite part of the episode. You go, here was all it's organized, it's bullet pointed.
They all begin with P.
Yep, exactly.
This is where you get the pen and paper, right?
Yes.
As you said last week. I like that line. So the first is, right, our desire is for the other's desire. So first one, easy. We desire the desire of those we desire. If you desire somebody, you want them to desire you. You want them to look at you and feel envious or feel desirous in some sort of way. So that's pretty easy. People can start to see that. We could talk
You can
about
relate to it.
Relate to that. Yeah. We all know that even whenever you want to be rich, again, there might be a sense in which, well, who do I want to be rich for? Because if you've got the perfect car and the perfect house and nobody can see it, do you really get the pleasure of it?
Yeah, I used to do a bit that I never fully developed about in stand-up about how I was trying to do just really like trollish stuff for a while, but it was about how there has to be poor people, because if there's not poor people, how will I know that I have all this money?
Yes. If without their jealousy,
That's not the joke.
Yeah. But that's the structure.
There was
exactly,
something in there. Yeah,
there's something.
That's fun to imagine, because you're like, if you don't, then you think, well, there's all these people and they don't want there to be poor people. They say they don't want there to be poor people, and then there's all these other people who are like, if they're poor, they need to just fix that. They need to do what I did, and they need to fix it. And then you're like, well, but that still implies you want their. Yeah, it's very. I don't know.
Yeah. No. Constantly, people are looking for the desire of the other. They're always, and without that, like there's the joke Zizek tells. I won't tell it too much. Basically, a man sleeps with a woman on a desert island, and they're the only two people on the desert island. And so after they've slept together, and this is a very beautiful woman, he gets the woman to dress up in his clothes and put on a fake moustache and meet him at the beach. And whenever he goes down to the beach and meets her, his first line is, "You'll never guess who I slept with."
Yeah, you're not going to believe it.
In other words, sleeping with the woman wasn't enough. He had to be able to tell someone. I had this yesterday, by the way. I bought this app that makes where I changed all of this stupid, I was bored, but it changes all of your little app icons, makes it all look really neat and tidy. And I did it, and I was like, I want to show somebody my iPhone. So it's like, but I've got no one, who am I going to show my fancy new clean iPhone apps to?
If you just sent me like screenshots, I would have been like, I'm calling the ambulance, and you need to know that there's a lot to live for, and just hold on.
I was almost going to send you a screenshot of it, because I was like, somebody has to see this. If I die and nobody's seen how cool my app selection is, like, and the icons that I've chosen.
Yeah. But you can take a moment and then go, okay, cool. But it's kind of hard to put yourself in the position of the person you're wanting to impress.
Yeah.
Who's that person? You're
not that person. Who's going to be impressed?
Yeah.
No, it's kind of depressing.
It's like a guy who pissed me off in high school that I'm trying to perform for. So that's number one.
So that's number one. The number two, right? I desire that the others desire, can be read as I desire what you desire. So I look at what you have, and I desire things because they alight your desire. They inflame your desire. And that can be split into two, jealousy and envy.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like envy.
Yeah, so jealousy is where I desire the things that I think you desire. It might be your job, it might be your fame, it might be your partner, whatever it is. Or envy is where I don't desire what you have, but I desire the type of desire I think you have. In other words, I don't desire your job, but I desire the happiness I think you have with your job. So I don't want your job or your partner or your whatever, but I want the type of desire that I think you have in relation to that. So that's the second way. It's like, I don't desire your desire. Your desire tells me what I should desire.
So that's interesting, because the difference between jealousy and envy, I guess, I don't know. I always thought it was just like, jealousy is like I get jealous. Yeah, I mean, it checks out. What you're saying does check out. If I'm jealous of someone who is Trevor Noah, if I'm jealous of Trevor Noah, I'm like, host of The Daily Show, to pick an easy example, or Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
If I'm not jealous, I'm jealous of Dr. Oz's job. I want a job like
yes,
his
which would
job.
be technically envy. That's envy.
Oh, that is
although
envy.
that's a technical distinction which nobody uses in real life. But
Well, Dr. Oz is very complex. So
oh yeah,
do you know who that is?
I've heard of him.
He's a goof.
Is he like on Oprah or something?
Yeah, he was on Oprah, and then he has his own show. I have no real opinion on him, but
yeah. Yes, because so what, you're not jealous because you don't want his show. You're envious because you want the type of relationship. You want a type of show that gives you the same satisfaction that you
So
imagine.
what would be jealousy
him.
then? Would jealousy in that instance be
You want his show,
really?
not you want.
I thought
a
it was the
show.
opposite. I
Jealous.
thought envy was wanting the thing that they have.
Yeah.
Like I'm envious of my neighbor's wife, or I'm envious
jealous
of my
of my
neighbor. I'm
neighbor.
envious for my neighbor's wife. I want her. I don't
Yeah.
want. But I'm jealous of what he had. That's what I thought it was.
Okay, well, you know what?
Did I? What did
No, you could like whichever way round, as
Yeah.
long as you make the
It's not
distinction.
important.
Yeah. That's. I think technically, is you're jealous of something the person has, and you're envious of the type of desire they have. But I
You
could
know,
be
this
wrong.
is just Socrates
Is
and
that-
Plato shit. You know, this is just crazy.
Yeah.
This is deep stuff. the
It's like-
between the jealousy.
It's like watching one of Platonic dialogues in person.
Yeah.
Like as if you were
but
there.
like 4-year-olds.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very good. Well, that's all about mimetic desire. So I learn what success is by looking at what other people think
Yes.
success is. The third, what was the third I was going to
Guilty.
say? Is all right. So the first is I desire your desire. I want you to desire me. The second is sometimes I learn what is successful. I learn what to desire by looking at what you desire. And so
Okay.
I desire what you desire. By the way, in relationships, you see that where you go out with somebody and then you start taking on their desire. You start to enjoy what they enjoy.
I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah. You're so narcissistic.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
all me, me, me.
Yeah. Then the third, these are the more complicated ones. Sometimes you desire to frustrate the other's desire. So what you desire is to not give the person what they want. So this, you see this. I know somebody who they always failed. They failed exams. They forgot about things. They never progressed. And as I talked to them, I realized that
You know, every time you mention an example like this, I'm assuming it's me.
yeah, you're the only person
So-
I know. You and Jay, that's one of you.
Yeah, I was like, I know who it is. It's probably like, hasn't progressed,
Yeah.
stuck in his ways,
Very like a really rubbish life.
very
superficial.
bad life, very pathetic. Okay, yeah.
Pathetic person, yeah,
Yeah.
a friend. So once I was talking to him and realized that he grew up in an environment where he was always being pushed by his parents to achieve certain things. And so deep down, he was being very successful. He was being very successful at not giving his imagined parents what they wanted. So until he realized that
Like a
he
teenager.
What's that?
Like a teenager.
Yeah, like a teenager. Yeah, he was rebelling, but he didn't know. So as an adult, he was like, "Why am I always screwing things up, not getting where I've got the talent and the ability, but why am I not moving forward?" And it was only when he began to realize that it was because actually unconsciously he was trying to stick his finger up to his parents and go, "I don't want to fulfill your desire. You've been pushing me all my life as a child." So he was being successful at being a failure, but by noticing that, he was then able to change and become more successful.
Yeah. Okay. I
So-
can get behind that.
All right.
I'm still confused on the differences between number 3 and number 1. Number 1 is
Okay.
the desire, the mimetic desire,
Yeah,
desire of the other desire, other's desire.
yeah. You desire their desire. Yeah,
Yes, you want to be desired by them.
yeah.
So it's performative.
Performative. That's a good way to say it. You're performing to an audience. You don't know who the audience is. You actually don't even think there is an audience most of your time, but there is. There
And
is.
then number 2 is the jealousy, envy.
Yeah, you
Quagmire.
desire not the other's desire, but you desire what they desire. They're looking at something else. Like whenever
Emulation.
you're
It's more like performative. There's performative, and then there's emulate. Performative is to impress.
Oh, that's good.
There we go.
Emulate. Which starts off when you're very young, when potentially one of your parents, your mother, for example, desires her partner, and then you're going like, what is it? What is it to be desirable? And you look at the father and you go, why does my mother desire the father? and then you try to emulate it or something like that. That's an example of that. You try to emulate what the other desires, and it's kind of connected to number one, because it's a way of then, if you're able to get what the other desires, they will also potentially desire you.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. You're still you're still following them. And then what was the third one?
Number three, you desire to stop up or frustrate the desire of the other. So what you're doing is somehow your parents' desire, for example, is too close. You were their avatar for their lack of success, and so you're so in their desire that as you grow up, you resist it. You refuse it. So you refuse to be successful.
I see.
You refuse to do well. You go out with the wrong type of person. All of this, but really you're doing it so as not to satisfy the desire of the other.
I have one more question.
Go for it.
What was the difference between number 3 and number 4?
We haven't done number 4 yet.
We haven't done number 4.
Yeah.
Oh, then I'm totally up to speed.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, that's number 4. I was like, that's what I thought number 4. Okay, so now we're up number 4, everybody.
Number 4, right. Number 4, and these are just, I'm sure there's more, but these are the main ones I thought of this morning using this Lacan. Is number 4 is, this is a weird one. You have internalized the other's desire, and that impacts how you live. So an example, I have a friend who he's always trying to put himself in humiliating positions, always puts himself in a position where something goes wrong and he looks bad, or he looks childish or something like that, right? He doesn't do it all the time, but it's a tendency he used to have. And then through a dream, he told me a dream, and we deciphered it, and in the dream it became obvious that he'd internalized the desire of others who wanted his downfall. So there were others who wanted his downfall, and that desire that they had was internalized, so he was now desiring his own downfall. So his desire was weirdly for the desire of someone who wanted his downfall.
Like a neurotic guilt kind of thing?
Yeah, and until he realized that, and it's funny, just the realization, and he suddenly saw it, and he saw how others had wanted him, or he perceived others had wanted his downfall, and that had been internalized. Even realizing that weakened the effect of it, so... And all of this is related to success, because what we think is successful is connected to the other's desire.
It's great. I mean, it's very great. It's a little smorgasbord of things to dive into. But let's see. So you have I get where you're going with this. Let me ask you this, and this is a total, and this is now me picking your brain, because I love that. I love the specifically the story about the dude who realizes that he is successful at failing and then rebelling his parents. That's wonderful. That's good. That's good, wholesome fun.
That's good fundamentalist.
That's good fundamentalist, little psychoanalysis, little savory. And I like the fourth one, the consuming of the others. I can understand that too. The consuming of
you're colonized by it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's almost cancerous, and all of a sudden you're not yourself, and you've lost track of your own sense of your own compass a little bit. And then the first two, I can kind of understand. But let me ask you, this is a total left field question. So get ready. This is crazy. I feel like this is my thoughts, I guess. That's how we'll say this. I'm not building off of what you're saying. We'll come back. It'll all mix in. But I feel like there is a real interesting success culture that is, like, we talk about cancel culture, and we talk about the PC world and the whatever. There's all these like movements that happen, but there seems to be a very like interesting subculture online, specifically, of people who are obsessed with this self-motivation, this like, I am a lion, roar, and here I go, and like that kind of thing, and that sort of like hype yourself up. I'm a huge like proponent of whatever works.
I would hear you roar, and when we lived together, like in the morning, you you would roar at about 7
You
in
heard
the
that?
morning. Yeah, it was great.
Thank you.
I would hear, I am a champion.
Those weren't even my
I would hear
loudest
you
roars.
shout, I am a champion.
I am a champion.
I saw in your mirror you had written, I am a winner.
You got this. Go out there and get it. That kind of shit is crazy to me.
Yeah.
That people, you know what I've noticed? I was talking about this because I'm moving currently. Well, my girlfriend and I are moving at the same time, together to the same place. But I was like, girls, in my experience, and I was telling her this, I was like, girls love like phrases on walls.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's the funniest because it'll like she she did have a bunch of like those little things that you find that are like go out and get them.
Yeah.
I just think it's cute. It's part cute and it's part like it's an interesting thing that they seem to enjoy.
Yeah.
Women are crazy. I don't know what to tell. But it's all very wonderful. So anyway, that kind of stuff is for dudes is I think endlessly fascinating because there is this drive in a lot of men, I feel like, to be this hyper version of success in whatever field they're in, and it's really cool, but at the same time I'm like, who's you could chill too. Like you could just chill. Yeah.
By the way, there's a counter movement as well. This is interesting. We can tease this out because I think that's great, right? There's that, and there's also some movements that you could say are trying to find success in failure. So there are some groups that, the more there's like a type of like victimhood that is its own success.
What are you talking about?
I would think of. See, I'm not on social media much anymore, but there is often kind of like, the more kind of like the more obstacles you had, the more social currency you would get. Do you know?
Yeah, that
is it. What do you call that?
Masochism.
Well, you know what? It's kind of a version of that. Yeah, it's very, very good.
This was like playing whack-a-mole with words.
Yeah.
Well, I had a thought just now about this. Oh, it was about Twitter because you said you're not on social media very much right now. I was on Twitter the other day and I had a Joel Osteen pop up as a suggested follow. And the
That's
reason,
probably because of me.
It is. Yeah. It said at the top, Peter Rollins follows, and I was like, that son of a bitch is still following just Joel Osteen. And I click on your profile, and still you're only following Joel Osteen. Yeah. And I love that you haven't changed it. And you don't make a joke about it. You don't bring it up to people. It just says Peter on burn the I say funny a little quippy thing that's very smart sounding, and then following one person, Joel Osteen, and his bio is like, the most it's Joel Osteen as you can imagine with being all prosperity gospel. It's very good. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Well, you see what you're bringing up is like if this is the case, right? Those four that I mentioned, you're going to find social movements that fit into all four. You're going to find people who want to be successful in terms of what culture says is successful. So they want to be what's called, we talked about it last week, the big other. Mm-hmm. They want the big other to say you're successful. So that means wealth, fame, success. If you're a man, very masculine, or if you're a woman, very kind of Barbie doll-esque, whatever. So that's that. Secondly, you're going to find like a whole pile of things on social media where people pretend to desire things to get you to desire them and make a living out of that. So an Instagram model will be drinking a diet shake. The whole point of the advertisement is this beautiful person who you desires the milkshake, so therefore you desire it. And then you're
works like a charm.
Works like I'm try a lot of the diet stuff from all the Instagram models I follow. They do pop up a lot, so on my
isn't that weird
search? I know. I was like, oh dear, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, Instagram Explorer page will tell you exactly what it thinks about you pretty quickly.
It tells you stuff about yourself you don't want to know very quickly. Yeah.
You can look up the exact keywords.
You told me that, and I did it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Did you see Borat 2?
I haven't yet because I do love Cohen, Sacha Baron.
Love him,
but for some reason I'm nervous. I hope it's going to be as good.
I don't remember the first one, so I'm not. And I have no taste in movies, but I will say I really enjoyed what I still have half an hour left. I didn't reach the end of the film. Some of it kind of bores me. It's like they're doing sketches and stuff to kind of piece everything together. But there's a really interesting minor spoiler. Really interesting scene with an Instagram influencer, and the way that she speaks to this young girl, she believes to be a young girl, is very sad, because it is basically that, like what you're saying, that sort of performative, like, you have to do this, like you have to submit, like your woman, like it's, you submit to the man, and then by doing that, your job is to make sure you take the back seat, and it, like, it's very, you know, not what you would want to hear typically. And then at the end she goes, because when you do that, then you can take all their money. Like, it's that, like, she's basically describing a sugar daddy situation. And it's just fascinating, because it's this girl who is this Instagram model who is like revolted by this girl who starts being vulgar or whatever, but she's revolted because she's like, and we're never going to do that in public. Like, you don't do that in front of other, it's that kind of like, perform for other people. Other people are what this is all about, and getting what you, it's crazy.
See, my hope with Park, because my concern with where he was going was that I always liked that he was an equal opportunities offender, and then I felt that he was starting to go away from that, and then not attacking equally everybody. But that's my only concern with. But was he an equal opportunity attacker? No.
I don't think so. I mean, he definitely. I don't know, man. It's getting harder. I think it might be easier to attack one side.
I know what it is. So of course it is. Like, but he has balls, so I'm surprised. But yeah,
he's got balls is the perfect way to put it. He's insane. I feel like he's such a gift. I want to protect him, because I'm like, we need him. We need him. But it's funny because he's also explored the fact that he's too famous now to go around as Borat, so he's got to have this daughter, and they make it interesting. But I haven't finished it, so I haven't seen all the great stuff. Anyway, success.
Yeah. But all of these things then, will all be seen. They'll all be seen in cultural movements.
Yeah, I mean,
including people. And what I was meaning by the people who do want success is there'll be people who, the more you try to frustrate the big other, right? The more you reject what you think the big other wants, the more successful you are. And so you'll see that in society as well, which will be people, men and women, who overtly reject what they think the big other wants, and then that becomes its own success in the frustration of success. So
I think that's very relatable in the YouTube sphere, or at least as it was when it began. YouTube, I think what is cool, one of the coolest elements about YouTube in general, is the generation that I was lucky enough to kind of be a part of. We're a bunch of people that were like, we are throwing up the whole standards of what success is, and it was happening in different ways, but it was a rebellion against the Hollywood big other, I would say, at least in some way. And of course it became its own thing, and everything rises and falls, but it was a very cool element of the whole thing, that rebellious kind of like doing the opposite and giving up the metrics of success that previously were there. And then of course all the metrics of success came.
But that is a good point. Like, you guys were, the idea of success, the big other, the idea of being famous on TV or in like the media, you had to go through the gatekeepers, and it was Hollywood, it was all that. And then the YouTubers basically said no, and they went set up cameras in their bedrooms and started eventually getting viewerships as big as not TV shows.
And I mean, I lucked out because I was in LA and then did every audition I could do when I first moved from Florida, and I was 22 or 23 or whatever, or 23 or 20, and then one of them ended up being an open casting call that DeFranco was doing, and then that project fell through. And then I got called back in again like a year later after that. I thought that was going to be huge. I thought it was going to be like, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And like, I really love what this YouTube guy is doing. I don't really understand it, but I'll do my best. I was like, real go get him. It was wonderful. But Joe Barretto specifically he's actually like pioneer in that world, which I always forget because I talk to him every day. But like, it's crazy that he was like the generation that really did usher in that whole thing. I mean, and did it because there was a realization that it was complete Wild Wild West mentality. So anyway, it's very cool. And then,
and maybe you could describe that as being one step ahead of the big other. By what I mean is, one, you realize, which is the ultimate insight, the big other doesn't exist. There isn't something other that knows what it desires. If we only do the right thing, we'll get its desire. So we're always trying to either rebel against it or have it. But what some people did at that time is they just didn't care. They were like, I don't believe in Hollywood. I don't care. We're going to do it our own way. Then that becomes the next big other for the next generation. But then they'll rebel.
TikTok. I mean, TikTok's kind of doing it now too. It's crazy how these things keep popping up because there's this purity in certain new platforms where I think people are like, we can do whatever we want here, and it's not for money. There's no one going like, here's a sponsor. I mean, now there is obviously, but it starts that way, and then people, it becomes a movement. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And what I still like there's obviously people who make a living now off TikTok, but it's hard to know how. Like I've seen some of these videos that get millions of views, but they're not selling anything. They're just doing a dance.
Apparently,
and they've got millions.
Yeah, the sponsors are crazy.
Is that? Oh yeah, I suppose if you've got millions of
views. Like if you get one of those, then I don't know. I don't really know how it all works, but TikTokers are making there's insane mansions.
Yeah.
I watched a video by a guy named Cody Ko, who's wonderful, and he did a whole summary on the TikTok mansions that the newer TikTok mansions these TikTokers have, and granted, they buy these giant mansions because there's 10 of them or 15, and then they live in this house together and they make TikToks all day. I mean, it's insane. Yeah, because you try to think about it.
What was the one that was before TikTok that was similar? Vine, yeah, because there was people where we lived. There were a lot of Viners.
Yeah,
the Viners for a while were making a ton of money.
Yeah, some of them were able to transition to YouTube, but I mean that whole thing is fascinating. I'm still of the mindset that if I have an audience who's listening to anything or watching, thank you, that I'm doing, I'm okay. But that chasing of the numbers is still in me. I still do it. That's why when you're going through these numbers of 1 through 4, I'm like, I feel like you can kind of identify certain moments that are one or the other, and it's very nice because it's like sometimes it'll be very motivating for me to do a lot of work if I'm doing it to piss off an imaginary person who's probably never going to see it anyway.
Yeah. That's why they say success is the sweetest revenge.
It really is.
Because
it is.
We know deep down that if there's somebody who hates you and they see you doing well, it annoys them.
I don't even know who they really hates me, but if I go, I'm gonna do it, and I get really I'm gonna prove myself. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So all of this, I think it's a great way to remember that we're not in our own heads. I think that I desire what I desire. I think that I want a certain set of things, and I'm an atomistic individual going around the world. But when you start to see how desire flows, you start to go, oh my goodness, no, I'm desiring what others desire. I'm also colonized by others' desire. You're
fighting against it. You're performing for it. You're consuming it.
So you have to find you're finding yourself in relation to these flows of desire, these assemblages of desire, and it's kind of like that's just the way it is. It's neither good nor bad. It's just how we are as humans.
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
Yeah. Unless this is mostly neurotics we're talking about. Yeah.
When you say neurotic, you say most of what we're talking about is neurotics, but when you say neurotics, you mean most. Most people are
90%
by the 90%. Categorization of which I'm not going to ask you about.
Oh yeah. But some people who aren't neurotics genuinely don't care about symbolic success. Just has no value to them whatsoever.
Why? How? Tell me how. I mean, my goodness, if I don't like nice things.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a better person when I have money and some success in my...
Yes. No, they'll still like that, but they are less... they're less impacted by the idea of what the other wants. So they... so it's not that they want money or because they're trying to... evoke the desire of the other. There are some people who have very little interest in that, but what they do, so a perverse subject, for example, will often want how do you describe this? Right, dildos. They won't be that interested. What's that?
Dildos. It's always my answer.
It's always your answer.
No, the perverse wants dildos.
Yeah. No, they will, not really care very much about symbolic success and all of that. But they will potentially want to evoke the desire of someone else and be the answer to that desire.
Yeah.
So it's just a different way of desiring. But most people, most people who are listening to this, who are watching this, will to some extent be able to go, oh yeah, no, whenever I really want something or whenever I really feel at something, I'm still I'm communicating a message to somebody. Like that's the way to think about it. Is if you
it's
imagine
all subtweeting.
Yes, it's all subtweeting. The fantasy is subtweeting.
Oh, yeah, that's sad.
Yeah,
it's true, but it's sad. Where do you fall on this spectrum
of desire?
Yeah, or success. I mean, how you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I think it's.
You feel pretty successful?
Yeah, crazy. Like I'm living in Los Angeles.
This is the autobiographical portion.
This is, yeah.
I know, dude. I was thinking that when I was coming up here. I was like, I got out of my car and I was like, I'm downtown Los Angeles. I get to go do a podcast with my friend where I talk about stuff that I think is interesting and cool. This is like pretty freaking cool.
This is just it's really cool. But thankfully, like as you know yourself, like it doesn't make much difference. Like I was just as happy when I was living in the squat in Belfast. However, there's something about what we're doing now and what we're producing that's exciting.
It's better.
It's
better than your squat in Belfast.
Yeah, although that was a lot of fun.
You're just romanticizing your past and making it the big other for which you perform.
Yeah.
I was just total bullshit. I just made all that up.
That's the trick. You can just string these words together.
That's the trick. You just say shit.
Most critical theory, honestly, is just stringing together those words in bullshit ways. I've got very little time for most critical theory.
What about that? I don't know what even that means.
Yeah, it's kind of I feel bad for anybody. I did a master's in critical theory. And it's kind of like philosophy, but studying culture and politics and all that. Some of it's great.
That sounds fascinating.
But some of it is just really second-rate philosophy. So,
really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I had another thought about this whole thing, and I don't remember what it was. I mean, from a success standpoint and talking about success.
And you were saying we're not very successful because we're not big enough to get a sponsor yet.
No, yeah, I ran the numbers. I mean, maybe we are if there's any out there, but I mean, we'll know when we are, but we are successful enough to do other things, and we'll talk about that.
And I would feel bad, to be honest, because if we get a sponsor, you know what we're doing? We're saying we desire MeUndies or whatever it is, right? We desire this, so you should desire it, because you should desire our desire.
But I have MeUndies, and people should desire it.
Yeah.
So
I did MeUndies for a bit, but I don't like colors.
You can get the muted tones. You can get the basic colors. Yeah, but you're right. They're still more fun than you have room for in this pop art colorful place you got here.
Yep.
God, this is a white place, man.
Yeah.
And you're wearing very white clothes.
Yeah. This is my summer outfit.
Well, we're successful. We get to do what we want. And that's what I think the big metric is. You get to do fun stuff and you get to explore things. I don't know of a better situation. Oh, yeah, I do. It would come with all the symbolic stuff. But I like that stuff too. I don't understand this, like, the fight against success is very interesting to me, and I am so paranoid of that and so aware of it that I'm always like, am I fearful of success? Like that whole thing that people say, which I think 100% I am to a degree, and I am a lot sometimes and not at all other times. But like, of course I want the symbolic things of success, because even if they're symbolic, or maybe especially because they're symbolic, it usually means something good went and happened.
Yes.
So
that's, by the way, right, at the most crude, we as children want to just be in our mother's arms. That's not crude, I'm saying, but we want to just be there, and then we have to go out into the world, and then we have to get what's called substitute objects that don't quite feel as good as our mother's cuddle, but give us symbolic success. So that's kind of what we're left with. Right, we want our mother's breast, but
you
hey, we
settle. There. I don't know.
we settle for some money.
I don't know. You bum me. I was like, I'm talking about cars and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean.
So
well, having security and financial security is definitely, I think, akin to the sort of like, I'm safe.
Yeah.
I have all my needs met.
Yeah, as compensatory, in a sense of like, we get genuine pleasure out of these things, out of like whenever something goes right in your life, you cook a nice meal for your friends, you have a great night out. These are genuinely nice things.
What do you think would happen, Pete, if we? Okay, hypothetical.
No. Okay.
Yes,
No.
I didn't hear what you said, but I bet it was funny. Hypothetically, let's say, truly try to enter into this imaginatively. Say a week from now, we're talking success here. Okay, this is all about success. Yeah. We're getting 1 million to 2 million. All right,
an episode
per episode. Not only that, people are going back previously. God knows what we said back then. God knows what kind of dumb stuff I spat out trying to sound smarty pants. How does the podcast change? How do you change? All of a sudden, do you start following people on Twitter besides Joel Osteen?
Yeah, no,
does the content of it change? Here's my theory.
Yeah.
I think had it happened earlier in my personal life, it would affect dramatically. But I bet this podcast would not change very much at all.
Yeah.
If we were successful. That's my inkling. But what's your inkling?
Yeah, my inkling would be that the same, you know?
Maybe a set? Maybe
set.
like a studio or a set?
Yeah, maybe we would become, we'd have maybe a place to go to and we'd...
You know what my dream is for this podcast? Multiple camera angles that go back and forth.
And we'd get an editor to edit little clips out to stick online, like little things like that.
Can you believe that? That's,
nice, yeah.
Boys can dream, you know?
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Here's the thing, right? You were saying about you worried about sometimes, am I, fighting against success or whatever. This is the problem it's not the problem with life coaches, but a life coach is great if you want your own success, right? If you're trying to do something and you don't have the skills and you see a life coach and they encourage you and help you, that's great. But if you're colonized by the desire of someone who wants your downfall, maybe it was your parents, it may not be in reality, but you think you've internalized your parents' desire for your failure, or your friends or whatever. If you've internalized that, no life coach is going to be able to get you over that, because you're colonized with a desire that will always trip you up. So what one has to do is become cognizant of what desires you're colonized by. And once you realize that, people can overcome. So anybody I meet who self-sabotages, but who's got the skills to achieve what they want to achieve, say they
have the skills to pay the bills.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, but they just somehow always don't pay the bills. They always forget. They never open the bill in time. All of that, which is a very common thing, right? Never pay their rent on time. Not because they don't have the money. So there's something else going on. You start to ask, right, who is it who wants to see you homeless? Like I had that with a friend who was basically almost homeless for a bit. And I was like, who wants you homeless? Because you don't have to be homeless. He didn't have to be. Mm-hmm. But he briefly was in this position where he was living out kind of, it sounds weird to say, but he was kind of living out an internalized desire for his failure. Mm-hmm. Like when you maybe have an ex who wants your downfall, mm-hmm. and somehow you enact that in your life.
You might even have more than one.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. Lose track after a while. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Recognize, that's a very interesting one. That's a very good point. If we're going to take anything away from this conversation,
which is unlikely.
No, I think we got a few little tidbits here. But the one about internalizing someone else's desire for your failure is very funny to me.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah. It's funny. So, like, a friend of mine told me this dream, and in this dream, they were basically in a situation where people were laughing behind their back, all of this kind of stuff. And it was like, the kind of the rule of thumb is your dreams tell you a wish, but it's not always your wish. It's sometimes the wish of someone else that's inside you. And through this dream, we were able to work out, oh my goodness, yeah, you've internalized this wish for your downfall that now you play out. And as soon as we deciphered it, within the next day, had a dream that was different. And it was a dream that was recurring over years. And just that insight was enough to start shifting everything.
Yeah, our brains are little terrifying boxes of horrors.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we should do next week. It'll be on Halloween. We should have done that Halloween-themed episode, right?
I forgot Halloween's coming up. That's right. Yeah. Let's do Halloween theme next week. Yeah.
Man, that's wonderful. Okay, cool, man. I feel great about this. I'm trying to think about success more and more. In my own world, success is such a vaporous thing that I've experienced symbolically in many ways, and I've also experienced the reverse of success symbolically, and like the death of things. So I have a interesting, I guess, relationship with it. Except I do feel this is where I go kind of not Republican, but a little bit, where I'm like, I always am of the mentality that if you want to be a certain level of successful, quote unquote, regardless of whose desire you're trying to enact, if you want to do it, so just to prove that you can, if you're pissing someone off, if you're consuming their desire, if you're, performing for them, whatever, my mentality is always like, yeah, you can do, if you may not, I think what I'm trying to, I got it, what I'm trying to say. You may not succeed if you do everything right, okay? But life will be better if you fail having tried to do it at least. And so that's the only thing about success thought that I have that's maybe less philosophical and more just like
that's great.
Literally do it, which is leads me to frustrations where I can project onto other people what I perceive them to be lacking in terms of taking risks and in terms of doing all of these, making these crazy decisions and fly by the seat. It's like, let's do this, like do everything you possibly can do to get successful. That way, if you can get to the failure quicker and know if you're going to screw things up. But oftentimes I project that out because I myself am not doing everything I can do.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's very good, and I want to add something to it to make it even I think more of a call to action. Is what if it is not the success is where the pleasure is, but in the trying. So in other words, once you try, and even if you fail, the truth is you'll get all the satisfaction you want, because the truth is all of the satisfaction is in the trying. Once you get there, once you get to the point, say, where you've got the mansion in Beverly Hills, you've got everything you want, guaranteed you'll be fantasizing about those difficult times when you took that risk, when you stopped that job, because that's actually where all the fun is. That's where we don't, as human beings, we tend to, the logic of desires, we tend to think, oh, it's the finish line where the action is, but no, it's in the attempt. That's all where all the fun is. And that's why we have to be, we're not that successful, because we're not. And two is, if this was 2 million people listening, we'd be bored because we have done it. It's like,
maybe, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know.
It'd feel heavier.
Yeah.
It would feel heavier. I don't know if I get more bored by it though.
Yeah.
But
it's hard
I have an uncanny ability. Yeah. and I have an uncanny ability to compartmentalize and be like, and turn all that stuff off. But yeah, I see what you're saying. That's very good.
So I think it fits with what you're saying. Like, try, do it.
And also, well, that's just the
fun. It might not work.
That's the fun part.
And that's the fun bit. That is the fun bit.
It goes back to asking girls out when you're single, and it goes out to, or asking guys out, or asking whoever out. Like the enacting of the life. You have to put chips in the pot.
Yeah.
That's the message,
Which goes back to what we talked about with sacrifice 2 weeks ago. We did the sacrifice episode, which is, for something to be meaningful, it is connected with the amount of effort and difficulty that it entails.
It really is. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Which, by the way, and this is the theme, my choice for next week, probably, if we don't do Halloween, is I'm going to infinity. And it's going to partly connect with the idea that you cannot have a life without some degree of suffering. We may fantasize we want it, but actually some degree of pain is required.
Yeah.
So,
but anybody who thinks you don't need it should try it for a little bit, and you'll, I think, figure out that it'll make you go crazy.
Yeah. Too much suffering and too little.
Your entire brain atrophies and you die.
Yeah. Yeah, too much suffering and we die, and too little suffering and it's a form of living death.
Goldilocks.
Yeah, that's right. It's the Goldilocks effect.
It's an interesting. I mean, we could keep diving into this because I could just keep saying random crap, but I don't think we need to. I feel very good about this.
That's something we do often, by the way, as we then talk for 5 minutes about how we think we're at the end of the podcast.
Oh, well, we can end it then. I don't want to hear myself ramble on. I don't want to make anybody else suffer. Thank you, everybody else. Everybody for listening to this. Do you have any takeaways or anything you want to add?
I think we did. Well, we did some good takeaways, I think, in the midst, but do you have anything?
No, I think it's all wonderful. I think do everything. I think my thing is I hope people don't think that the descriptors you're giving are in any way necessarily even avoidable, first of all, but also necessarily a bad thing or not anything that, like, it's like, do whatever works. This is all part of the fun of getting to be alive.
And it's partly like, this isn't the full thing, but it's partly just becoming more aware of the desires that are in you and who's watching and what's like, that in of itself is really useful. So if I have a takeaway, it's like, ask yourself today, who is the other who's either watching what I do that I'm trying to impress, or who is in me? And just asking that question can open up really good things.
It's all me. Thank you, everybody. No, just bye, everybody.
Bye.